Lately I've been thinking about this life and how it brought me here. Staring at this man in the mirror, I see him often here. Wipe my tears, only if you knew what I was going through. Only if you walked it in my shoes.
Welcome to the Message Hope podcast, where the hope stands for hearing other people's experience. My name is Adam.
My name is Mike, and today on the podcast, we got somebody in here who's got as much clean time as I've been alive. He got 34 years. Yeah. He looks like he's 44.
I know, that's what I said too earlier.
Man, so we appreciate you coming on the Cecil on the show. Cecil, how you doing?
Good, man. Thanks for inviting me.
Of course, bro. So pretty much how we started off every time, we ask about your childhood, your family dynamics. Was there addiction in the household? Where did you grow up? How'd you grow up? All those things like that. So where'd you grow up?
I grew up in San Antonio, Texas.
Okay.
I'm the youngest of 7 kids. I was the baby, right?
Yeah.
So it was interesting growing up there in Texas, man, because before I ever used, I had no clue how alcohol was going to affect my life.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I'm saying that because, my dad was an alcoholic. Okay. And it really affected my life. With me being the youngest of 7 kids, by the time I came around, man, it was full blown, insanity. Yeah. But, I didn't know that at the time.
Right.
Like you said, now that I have the time I have, I've been able to reflect on my life and realize that, man, way before I ever picked up and used, this stuff was already affecting me,
yeah.
In a negative way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you grew up with 7 siblings. You're the youngest.
Yeah.
What was it like for you growing up? Like, what was school like? What was it?
Yeah, oh man, you know what? It was interesting because I grew up in the area, in the community. There was a lot of cousins and stuff, a lot of family, and I was really blessed. Here's the blessing I had. I had a grandmother that lived right next door.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and she was the real deal. I had a grandmother, man, that because I was the youngest, she looked out for me, and I can just remember her saying, "Come on, baby, come over to my house. They picking on you," and she would check my brothers and for picking on me and stuff, and so she was my protector growing up.
Okay.
For the first 10 years of my life, So, but because I had so many friends and family. And my dad was, been an alcoholic. My mom was pretty much, tired, man. It wasn't a lot of parental guidance. So now when I look back on it, it's like, man, we were doing all kind of stuff that could have got us hurt, injured, or killed. Just wasn't a lot of parental guidance.
Yeah.
So
was there any abuse in the household? Was there?
Not with me, not with the kids. I mean, and I really can't even say neglect because, my grandmother, she looked out for me, but I'm going to share this quick story, man. When I was maybe in the 1st grade, I was pretty young, but we had a broke down car in the backyard. And like most kids, man, I wanted to play with matches. Mm-hmm. And this car was in the backyard, and I took the gas cap off, and I was dropping matches down in this gas cap.
Oh, damn.
And down in the gas tank. And I can remember, man, the first match I striked, it's like something blew it out. And I strike another one, and I dropped it down there, and all these flames just come rushing out of and hit me in my face, right? Mm-hmm. And that, because, I had no parental guidance, I had to, my mom, they really wasn't watching us,
Yeah.
So I can recall, man, passing out from the fumes and stuff. I don't know how I didn't get burned or why the car didn't blow up, but it didn't.
Yeah.
Okay. And I recall something carrying me, something or someone carried me and laid me in the house, and laid me on the floor.
Oh, man.
And when I came to, it's like, man, was I dreaming or what? But I went outside and I saw the gas cap on the ground, so I know I wasn't dreaming. So I think that was my first encounter with an angel.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It had to be an angel. Because my parents didn't get on me. Nobody's, hey, man, why you out there playing with matches,
Yeah.
I survived that incident.
Wow.
So that was one of my first encounters,
Damn.
With something supernatural.
Yeah.
All right.
The first of many, I assume.
Oh, first of many.
Oh,
Okay.
Yeah, first of many.
All right.
Yeah.
So you grew up in Texas. How long did you live in Texas? Did you go
Like I
through
said,
school?
for the first 10 years, to the 5th grade. Because what happened, well, I'll share another story, man. I think I was about in the 3rd grade, and this is pretty cool. But like I say, being the youngest of 7 kids, I had 4 older brothers. And like most kids, we want to be like our big brothers,
Right.
And so I kind of got exposed to a lot of sexual stuff at a young age, but not necessarily abuse, I mean, I saw my brothers, doing stuff with girls, so I wanted to be like them, right?
Right.
So man, I was already sticking my little pee-pee and stuff. 2nd, 3rd grade, you know what I'm saying? Didn't know what I was doing, but I was just emulating my brothers, because
Right.
they was having girlfriends and and doing stuff like that. So I think I got exposed to sex way too young.
Yeah.
We were not even realizing it was sex. But one time in the 3rd grade, man, me and my friends, my brother, I had a brother Tony, 11 months older than me, and we had a good friend named Bingo that hung out every day.
Yeah.
And we were walking around one day, man. We decided, hey, man, let's go buy a pack of cigarettes. Let's go get a pack of cigarettes. And my dad smoked Pall Mall. So that's the only thing I knew to buy was these Pall Malls, because back then the kids could buy cigarettes.
Yep.
So we go into this store and get these Pall Mall cigarettes, and we come out, man, and I made the mistake and inhaled that cigarette, man. I coughed to, almost threw up. It was like I was just choking,
Yeah.
right? Now the positive to that is, because of that one cigarette in 3rd grade, it had been a deterrent for me ever wanting to smoke again. Because whenever I would try to smoke a cigarette to try to be cool, I would choke, right? And it would I would flash back.
Yeah.
It's like, man, so I thought I was different than most people, because I could inhale cigarettes, right?
Yeah.
Not realizing everybody, when they first started smoking, cough and choke on cigarettes, right?
Yeah.
But that was a deterrent for me to ever want to smoke again, man. And I'm grateful for that incident, because I never had to struggle with nicotine, because that's a drug of choice for a lot of people that have a hard time kicking.
Yeah.
My drug of choice for sure.
Yeah.
It's not cigarettes anymore, but it's still nicotine.
Nicotine, that's
nicotine
a drug,
and caffeine
man.
are my
Yeah.
So I was like, man, why didn't it happen when I was smoking weed and stuff, or smoking crack? You know what I'm saying? My body didn't reject it the way it did that nicotine.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool. But what happened, man, like I said, my dad would come home drunk, man. Him and my mom would get into it, fighting and stuff. And I can remember, man, as a young boy, trying to pull my dad off my mom. And, I mean, if you ever want to traumatize your kids, beat up their mom. You know what I'm saying? I mean, to this day, man, if I hear some rumbling, bum, 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 I flash back to when my mom and dad would be fighting, And so one day I was in the 5th grade. I know I was in the 5th grade. My mom and dad had got into it, and she went next door to get away from him over her mom's house. And he's at the back door drunk, and, won't you come home? And, begging and like drunks do, sipping and wimping. And so somebody went out the door and forgot to lock it. And so then he comes in and started fighting with my mom, and my grandmother, man, cracked him in the head with a big old pipe wrench.
Oh, dang.
Split his head right out, man, it split his head open,
Yeah.
Then he's bleeding, and he goes back outside, and, somebody need to take me to the hospital. Like I said, man, my grandmother was a gangster, man. She was like, I'll take you, I was like, wow, yeah, right. I'm like, wow, man, she's something, But but because of that incident, no, he's crying. I just want my wife to take me. He's been a punk, and crying. He's drunk, tripping. But the thing was, back then, nobody go to jail. I remember the police coming, and I think they took him to the hospital.
Yeah.
Gave him a ride to the hospital. But anyway, that happened like on a Sunday night or something. It was in the evening. So I had an uncle. His name was Cecil. They lived in California. So my grandmother called her son Cecil, said, hey, this is what's going on, da-da-da-da-da. He flies out from California that night, and he's talking to my mom, and he asked her, so what do you want to do? Are you ready to lead this guy? And she said, yeah. He said, well, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to take you and your 4 youngest. We're flying back to California, and y'all going to live with me. And he's married and got his own family, but he got my mom and the 4 youngest, you know, my life changed just like that overnight. So I was in San Antonio one night, and the next day I'm living in the beautiful city of Compton, California.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, damn.
Yeah.
You know. And so my 3 oldest brothers were left there to kind of fend for themselves, but my grandmother lived next door, but she kind of looked out for them, I guess. But they were at that age, man, teenagers. So, you know, they was bug wild.
Yeah.
You know. So he brought me and my 3 other siblings, my brother and 2 sisters, to come live with him and his family in Compton, right? So I remember, you know, the first day of school, you know, the teacher asked my name and where I was from, and first thing I said was, you know, she called me and I said, yes, ma'am, and everybody's laughing at me.
Right.
Because I said, yes, ma'am, because, you know, they don't talk like that out here, you know, in school. So that was it was a culture shock.
Yeah,
you know, it was a culture shock.
You have your cowboy hat on too?
No, I didn't wear no cowboy hat. You know, I didn't wear no cowboy hat. But I remember, you know, walking to school one morning in 5th grade, my friend found a bag of weed on the ground, and he picked it up. Said, "Oh man, this is weed." I didn't even know what weed was, you know, but I played it up. Oh yeah, it sure is, you know.
Oh
Yeah, that's weed, man. So you know, we gave it to the teacher, and she just took it and put it away, you know, put it in her purse. So I don't know, you know, I don't know if she threw it away or what, but I remember we gave it to the teacher. And the teacher didn't make a big deal about it. She just took it, you know.
Yeah.
You know, but you know, that was the beginning of things, you know. I remember one of my first fights in Compton at school, kid was wearing brass knuckles in elementary school.
Damn.
Wow.
Yeah, fight me with brass knuckles.
Damn. Did they even fit his hand?
I don't know, man. I just remember when they came and broke it up, he took some off his hand and put it in his pocket.
Yeah.
You know, I said, this fool had something on his fist, you know.
Yeah.
And in the 6th grade, I remember a friend smoking weed with his dad, you know, and I wouldn't even, you know, so the environment was crazy, man. You know, growing up in that environment, you know, I got exposed to a lot of gangs, drugs, you know, a lot of violence, you know, so it really changed who I was as a person, you know.
Were you attracted to any of that at the time?
Not initially, man. You know, I was attracted to girls.
Right.
You know, 6th grade, man, I was trying to be a player.
Yeah.
You know, I had a girlfriend, man, and we was doing stuff, you know, that we shouldn't have been doing, and you know, my saving grace was sports.
Yeah.
I was good in sports. I loved basketball, football, because I had older brothers, so they all played sports, and so I think my focus was more on the sports thing, you know. But you know, I still wasn't really trying to get high or anything or nothing like that until later on. You know, I think in the 9th grade, you know what really one of the first things that kind of affected me is when I graduated junior high school. You know, in the 9th grade, and we was having a graduation, and so at this time, you know, my mom has renting a house. She has, we all might be back together at some point. We all got back together at some point, all 7 of the kids. So I think it was all 7 of us at this point. And so we were renting a house in Compton, and it was my graduation day. And I'm all dressed to go to the graduation, and I guess the car wouldn't start. And so, but it was in walking distance. And my mom said, you know what, I'm not gonna go. You know, I'm not gonna go. You know, the car's not running. And I remember, man, just acting like it wasn't a big deal, but it was a big deal to me. You know, it was. And I remember going to the bathroom and just looking in the mirror crying, like, wow, you know, she don't even care that I'm graduating. You know, and that affected me, man. That affected me how I looked at school, that nobody, you know, like it was no big deal if I had good grades or not, because nobody cared.
Yeah.
You know? So
I just had like right before the school year ended for my kids, my son, he showed me like 2 days before he had an award ceremony that he was getting an award. I was like, bro, like I just started this new job, like I'm supposed to be there at this time, right? Like I can't make it. I was like, but your older sister will make it, right? And then like you could see the sadness come over him, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, you okay? He was like, yeah, I'm good. It's all right. It's okay, Dad. Like he's 10 years old, you know, it's okay. Don't worry about it, Dad. Like as long as Raylene's gonna be there. And like I walked away from that conversation. I was like, I have to go. Fuck a job, bro. Like I'm not, you know what I'm saying? So I just called him. I was like, hey, bro, like I think it might have been the day before, honestly. Cause they're like, hey, like I'm coming in late tomorrow. Sorry, my son told me this and that, but like I have to go. And then like, you know, just being there, him seeing me, like, you know what I'm saying? He waves at me and he gets all excited.
Right.
And my oldest daughter was there too, cause my oldest is 20 and my youngest is 10, you know. But Yeah, I think it's super important for me to show up to those things, especially like being like the single dad, you know what I'm saying, the only parent, you know?
Right.
And so like it's important for me to show up and like, yeah, so it is important for us. And I also wanted to talk about, because me and Mike, we were talking about this the other day, when there's like abuse in the household, right? Whether it's, you know, domestic violence or, you know, people just fighting all the time, right? Like even when it happens where a kid doesn't ever remember it, like when they're 1, 2, 3 years old, 4 years old. Like my last memory is about 5 years old, and it's a very vague, you know, small memory that I have, you know, in my mom's house, you know, playing a video game. That's all I really remember, right? But the effects that trauma, domestic violence, stuff like that has on a child's brain at such a young age, it changes the chemistry and it rewires everything. And like I remember, I might have shared about this on a podcast, but I think it's important, man. Like, I remember I was at my boy's barbershop and we grew up together. You know what I'm saying? Like we grew up poor, we grew up with violence. Both of our moms were addicts, you know, and there was like a fight that broke out in the store, right? And this guy, he's not a chump. This was, you know, he still knocked people out, you know, at his age, you know, he still has a lot of that mentality, you know what I'm saying? But he's a super good dude, bro. Now he has his own barbershop, right? You know, he's about to get married. Like, I absolutely love this dude. But, like, I remember we went back and I sat back in the chair and he's about to cut my hair. He's like, bro, like my stomach hurts, bro. You know what I'm saying? He's like, I got to go sit in my car. And he sat in his car for like 30 minutes, bro. And then he came back out and I was like, bro, that's trauma. That like, cause I'm not a punk, bro. Like I've done enough to, you know what I'm saying? Like, and that's not even important. But my point is like, but even when those things happen, when I see violence, or it makes my stomach turn,
it
bro.
affects you.
You know what I'm saying? It does something to like the nervous system that
it reacts.
I react differently to it. You know what I'm saying? And I've seen people react to violence like really cold and like not affect them at all, just like cool as a cucumber, right? But I also think that is like, that's apathy, right? So that is also an effect from so much trauma in your life that you just become numb to those situations, right? You see someone get their face split open, it's like, whatever, it happens. You know what I'm saying? But just like the physical reaction, and those things have a big impact on our adult life, and we don't even really know, because some of those memories we can't even remember, right? Like I remember having 2 years clean and having to call Willie, right, my sponsor, and be like, hey, bro, like I forgot about this in my step forward, but like this is what happened. You know what I'm saying? And just like memories flooding back, you know what I'm saying, of what my brain was trying to protect me from, like those memories, you know? So yeah, growing up in those households, and it does something to us. Seeing that kind of stuff, doesn't matter how young it is or how often it is, right? It has a negative impact on the way that our chemicals in our brains work. Yeah.
I agree. Totally agree. Yeah. But, you know, I really didn't start even trying to get high, man, till like the 9th grade, you know.
Sometime after that. Yeah,
sometime probably, but it was before the graduation thing. But I remember, you know, in the 9th grade, most of my friends were smoking and drinking. You know, I remember walking to school and guys buying the Mad Dog 2020 and, Thunderbird or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Drink all of it.
Yeah, right. Yeah. You know, and I want to fit in. See, and what I realize now, you know, I can reflect back and realize, you know, I wanted to fit in. I wanted to be liked. You know, I didn't want to gang bang. You know, I didn't really want it that bad. I didn't want, you know what I'm saying? I didn't want to get caught up in gang bang because that was too risky. Because you got to fight all the time, and you know that lifestyle was crazy. Yeah. You know, the gang bangers I knew back then, man, it was like a real job. You know, it wasn't some fun thing, you know, like you was in a club. Yeah. It was like a real thing, you know. Yeah. Guys was packing and shooting and, you know. So I didn't want to be down like that. But I wanted to fit in with the guys that I thought were cool. And most of those guys was, you know, smoking weed and drinking. So I kind of got exposed to it like that. But I really still went into it big time because, you know, I just wanted to do it when they were, you know, when I was around those guys. Right. You know, so... And sports still was one of my, you know, I enjoyed playing basketball and football more than anything. Yeah. You know.
So did you played all those through high school?
Pretty much.
Finish high school?
Okay, here's the deal. Okay, here's the deal with that. Now, I went all the way up to probably the last couple of months of high school, okay, when it was getting close to graduation, and I just stopped going to class. Because something in my brain told me it don't matter if I graduate. Right. Because nobody cares.
Yeah.
And I went to a school called Dominguez High School. And you guys are a lot younger than me, so y'all probably don't know, this guy, he played for the Raiders, so I won't even drop his name since it's on the podcast. But, I won't even put his name. But I went to a high school, man, that was so dysfunctional. People would gamble right in the hallways. They wasn't in the bathrooms or behind the gym. On the way to class, you see people shooting dice. You see guys putting cigarettes out right before they go into the class. It was very dysfunctional. And
so this like in the 80s?
I graduated in 79.
Okay, so this was in
Yeah,
79.
yeah,
I'm
79.
just trying to get a painted picture in my head, bro.
It was so dysfunctional, man.
So
I remember
70s.
walking around, it was Dominguez High School.
Yeah.
Okay. I remember saying, man, this cannot be by accident. It got to be by design.
Yeah.
I said, because, majority of my school was blacks and Hispanics. And I said, man, this cannot be by accident. How can be so much apathy? Like, they don't even care. I'm like, where's security, man? It's like, dudes was coming that didn't go to that school, coming on campus, just hanging out. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So if you wanted to, so it got so bad, like I said, if I didn't want to go to class, I just hang out.
Yeah.
I didn't have to go behind the bleachers, just walk around the halls.
Yeah.
And nobody cared. Nobody cared. So I waited to the last couple of months, of school, and then stopped going to class.
Still hanging at the school, just not
Just
going.
hanging out. Yeah, I didn't have to go nowhere. You could just hang out at the school and do whatever you're doing at the school,
Yeah.
And a couple of things, back then, the number one drug probably back then was always weed, but Sherm.
Yeah.
Sherm came around. Angel dust. Okay. Now, again, my saving grace was I couldn't smoke Sherm because I couldn't smoke cigarettes.
Oh.
And that's what they used to dip the Sherm.
Yeah,
Sherman was actually a Sherman cigarette that they dipped it in the Sherm.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Or then they started doing
I've
super
done them
cools.
before.
Right.
Yeah.
You dip it in that in the water. Right? So that's why they started calling it Sherm. But I could never do that because I couldn't inhale nicotine.
Yeah.
And so I never got caught up in that, But the weed thing was still cool. And drugs affected me, man, before I even ever became a real addict. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So right after high school, I got with some, man, the guys I knew in Compton, man, was so crazy. I knew guys in high school, man, was doing what they call, you ever heard of a hijack robbery?
Hijack robbery?
Hijack robbery.
Like an armored truck or something?
Something like that.
Okay.
Those big old trucks, those
Taking the whole truck.
taking the whole truck.
Damn.
Just taking stuff to Walmart, and these guys in high school, man, they was jacking them dudes.
Damn.
Yeah, yeah. So I had a
Highway robbery.
highway robbery.
Yeah.
So they were, they catch them sleeping. They catch them on the side of the road sleeping, and go at gunpoint, pull them out, and take the truck. That's why they probably started putting those low jacks and stuff in those things, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I actually knew a guy ended up getting 25 years, and he was like 16 years old
Damn.
for jacking one of those trucks.
You did it by gunpoint.
At gunpoint.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he got kidnapped and all this other stuff, right? So these kind of guys I grew up with, man. And then, low riding was really big time. And that's when, kind of like when NWA first came out, the rap, was getting gangster and stuff, all that, Dr. Dre kind of lived, I knew what area where he lived and stuff like that, And, but anyway, another thing that guys were really doing was stealing cars, because they were low riding and they go in other other cities and get these low riders and bring them back and strip them, and everybody was riding around with the true spokes, and So I had my biggest mistake I made, man. I had a little job, saved up some money, and bought my first car. It was a 1971 Grand Prix. And now, could nobody tell me nothing,
Yeah.
So now I'm out doing that stuff with my friends and got some rims and, I'm trying to be cool and stuff, and so, what I realized when I see these kids now, like doing these snatch and grabs and robbing people, a lot of them doing it for fun, man. That's what they do for entertainment.
Yeah.
Because I was one of those kids. I was one of those guys that would give my buddies and like, hey, come on, man, let's go out and hit a lick. And we didn't have no game plan. We just go out and do stupid stuff and think it's funny and cute, because we got away with it.
I used to go out stealing stuff before I ever started doing drugs.
Yeah, I was still
For
Well, I
fun.
learned how to steal when I was in Texas. When I had no parental, supervision. We just go around and go in stores and just steal stuff and, for fun.
Yeah.
Candy or whatever. So you learn at a young age this deviant behavior.
Yeah.
And it goes unchecked. So as you get older, it just gets a little worse because you what? The reinforcement was you got away with it, you can get away with this stuff. So at some point I told myself, well, ain't nothing wrong unless you get caught.
Yeah.
It's only, you know what I'm saying? It's only wrong.
Only a problem when you get caught.
Yeah, right. It's only wrong when you get caught. So actually, man, I left high school. A couple of months after high school, I'm with a couple of peers, and we out doing stupid stuff. Okay, we out doing some crazy stuff, and we hit a lick and we go get loaded. Where we in the car and we smoking and like I said, worst thing I did, I'm in my car.
Yeah.
So I'm the driver. I pull into a gas station and go use the bathroom. Happen to be some people over here in the gas station working on a car or something. They go there and jack them. I come back to the car. They did whatever they did. You know what I'm saying? So we get in the car and we leave. And we end up getting pulled over by the police. I think it's like 2 o'clock in the morning. So ain't nobody on the street but fools and the cops, right?
Yeah.
So we wasn't hard to find. We out of our environment, out of in Pico Revere, and had no business in Pico Revere.
Yeah.
Get pulled over, So when they stop us, man, we didn't have they dropped about 3-4 felonies on us. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And I ended up going to California Youth Authority. I went to the CYA. And another blessing was, back then they had YTS. I don't even know if you guys ever heard of YTS.
Heard of it.
Okay, it was in Ontario or somewhere. It's where all the gangbangers went. They sent me all the way up north to Preston. Preston, whatever. That I didn't know at the time, but it was a blessing.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have to deal with all the gangbanging stuff because I wasn't a gangbanger.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So they sent me out of my environment to really think about, man, what I did. And so I got 2 years. I had never got any time, had been in nothing major. That was the first felony I had caught. So they ended up giving me 2 years in youth authority, and that's when I realized. I said, "Man, I'm not a thug. I'm a wannabe. I'm a wannabe guy. I just living in a bad environment, trying to adapt to this environment. I wasn't even an addict. You know what I'm saying? But we started drinking and using, and the shit just escalated because we brought drugs into the picture. And it got worse. So anyway, man, I did that time, and when I got home, man, the game had totally changed. Crack was on the scene.
Yeah.
So I came home about like 81, and it was a whole new ball game, man. Those dudes that was doing all the jacking and stuff, then they selling crack. And one of my buddies came over and said, "Hey, man, here, go to work. Here you go. And again, I'm trying to fit in my environment. So I started out, trying to be a hustler, selling crack. And I had a brother that was on crack, and he was determined to teach me how to smoke it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Because you had the bag.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying? So and I looked up to my brother.
Yeah.
Hey, man, this is how you do it, man.
Yeah.
And so eventually, man, I hit it the right way. My ears popped, and I was like, Scotty beamed me up,
Heard the train.
Oh my goodness, man! Couldn't hardly catch my breath. I was like,
Yeah.
wow, okay, this is what they talking about.
Yeah.
But my drug of choice. Have you guys ever heard of Primos?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love them Primos,
Yeah.
man.
Weed with some crack on it.
Yeah, weed with
Our
crack.
crack with some weed on it. How we did it.
Yeah.
A lot of crack with a little bit of weed.
So so at the time, I'm thinking I'm rolling, so I'm trying to be cool smoking these Primos, because I could afford to do it. But eventually, I became my best customer, man.
Yeah.
I don't glamorize that lifestyle because in the end, whatever I accumulated, I gave it all back.
Yeah.
And I ended up hitting the pipe so I can stop smoking Primos. Because I did love Primos. So I was like, man, what's going to stop me from smoking these Primos? Hit the pipe. Then I didn't have to go buy a bag of weed to get high. You know what I'm saying? That was just like, sprung, So I did that, man, till I became desperate. I was out there from 21 to 29. you know, smoking crack and stuff, right? So I hit my bottom, man. And I remember one day, man, I was bad, man. Stealing from my mom, stealing, I mentioned my grandmother, right? Because I want to keep her in the loop in this thing. She came to visit us one time, and I'm on this crack, man, and she's visiting us, and I go in her purse, get 100 from her, got away with it. Go back another time, took another 100, and then I think the third time I went back, my mom caught me going in my grandmother's purse, and this is the one person grandmother that loved me unconditionally, that probably loved me more than anybody. And she's like, I can't believe you stealing from your grandmother. How low will you go? And so, that really wasn't a bottom for me, but I know, I was pretty low because I was steal from my mom, steal from anybody that I could catch slipping.
Anybody?
Yeah, it didn't matter. It didn't matter. I wasn't done.
Yeah.
But I remember, one time, man, I stole some stuff and I'm back there getting high and I just cried out, man. I just cried out to God, man. I was like, please help me. I'm tired of living like this dope fiend. I'm tired of this dope fiend life, And I was on my knees praying, man, and I'll share this with you guys. And it's like I heard a voice say, this is the last time you have to suffer for this. And it was so clear and distinctive, I turned around to see who was talking to me.
Damn.
It's like, this is the last time you have to suffer for this. And I'm like, huh? And then I knew it was the Holy Spirit because after I did all that crying, my high came completely down. Okay, I wasn't loaded, but this is the caveat to it. I was hungry. I had never smoked crack and had an appetite. So after I kind of came to my senses, I wanted to eat. And I was like, wow, this is real. This is really real, So it kept me clean for a while, but I didn't have recovery.
Yeah.
And I was still in that environment. You know what I'm saying? So I made it stop for a week or two. And then once I came back outside, it was on again. You know what I'm saying? Once I came back outside, it was back, cracking again.
Yeah.
But eventually I hit the bottom, man. And again, I remember crying out and praying. And somehow, I didn't even know about, the rooms of recovery. But I found myself in the rooms of recovery one time, man. And there was a guy in there was a heroin addict. And he shared his story about how bad it was for him. He talked, he shared his story. And I looked at that dude and I said, man, that guy can get clean. I know I can. I said, because heroin, you get sick if you don't get that stuff.
Yeah.
With me, you just get an attitude. You just be grouchy, I said, but man, this dude, he had cleaned up. If you looked at him, you would never known he was a heroin addict until he shared his story. And so, from the beginning, man, when I came in those rooms, it was an attraction because I wanted what he had. And at the time, man, I had hit my bottom. So I came in with a desire to get clean. I came in willing, to do what was necessary. So, I think, when I first came in, I didn't get clean. I didn't stay clean. I think I got a little clean time under my belt. Then I wanted to go show my friends. I remember I wanted to go show this chick I used to get high with, because I always had worked out. So I can get clean and do a little exercise and get a little, a little healthy. And so I went over there to her house and look at me.
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, okay, you looking good. I said, yeah, you need to, come to these meetings with me, right? And she told me? She said, look, I got a little something. I said, no, I don't want it. She said, you can always go back and stand up as a newcomer. That was like the devil.
Yeah.
Because you know what? It was true. You know what I'm saying? She didn't lie. All you got to do is go back and stand up as a newcomer. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. At the time, it made sense.
Yeah.
And so I was right back. I relapsed, but I didn't stay out there very long. I was like, I heard enough recovery to know that I wanted something better.
Yeah.
I had a dream one time, man, that I was digging my own grave, and it looked so real to me. It's like I had a shovel and I'm standing in this grave and I had dug my own grave. And it's like, this is what's going to happen if you don't stop.
Yeah.
So at some point, man, I made a decision to come in those rooms and do what was suggested. They told me to do whatever, get a sponsor, got a sponsor, but I knew early in my recovery, man, I was like, you know what, if I don't grow, if I don't do things to keep me moving forward, I'm gonna go back out there and use.
Yeah.
So one of the keys for me, man, is like my mom was moving. My uncle owned that house, and he decided to sell that house. So that turned out to be a blessing because I had one of those moms that was enabling. If I came home looking tore up, she was like, "Oh, baby, I never had to be on the street. I know somebody out there now that just can stay out there because their mom always going to enable them, right?" Yeah. So when she had to sell that house, it was a blessing because he didn't invite me to come stay with him. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, and it just so happened at a time when I made a decision to get clean. So that was kind of reinforcement for me to stay clean because I know when things got bad, I couldn't go home.
Yeah.
Right? So I moved into a sober living house with some guys, and that was the process for me starting to stay clean, learning how to stay stopped, learning what recovery was about, you know. So I'm so grateful for recovery because it taught me, for one, that alcohol is a drug. Yeah. So I never really had a real desire for alcohol. Right. But because, my mind, if I wouldn't have went to recovery, I would have said, I can have a beer now and then. It's no big deal, And the reason why I don't, because I don't want to lose my clean time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So I tell people, if something ain't an issue for you,
then
it should be no big deal giving it up.
Yep.
If it ain't, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Why am I debating that? Because it ain't something I gotta have. So give it up. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So when sometimes I tell some folks, man, I probably could drink. It ain't gonna be because I never drank to get drunk. Once I got I was a normal drinker.
Yeah.
If I got a buzz, I could stop. It's like, okay, I done had enough. Alcoholics don't get full.
Yeah.
I got full. Like after 2 beers, I was done. You know what I'm saying? So if I didn't have recovery, I probably would justify if I went to a family function to have a beer. Yeah. Because I wasn't going to abuse it. Mm-hmm. And I may never abused it, but I would have lost my clean time.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Yeah. So I value my clean time. I treasure my clean time. So when they told me alcohol was a drug, I said, I don't want no mind-altering substance in my system, So, everybody's stories, we all got a story, right? So my truth is my truth, okay? My truth is, man, drugs was something that I did to try to fit in. I never had, I love Primos, but when I stopped the Primos, I started doing the crack. And I never loved crack because it made you scandalous. You know what I'm saying? You just like these meth heads out here. Mm-hmm. I guess some of them might love it, but I don't. I didn't love it. Yeah. So when I was able to learn how to stay stopped, I wanted to stay stopped. Yeah. But I knew in order for me to stay stopped, I had to grow. Yeah. And so one of the things I did in growing, I went to an outpatient program, and that's where I met really my first good sponsor. He was a counselor at this outpatient program in Long Beach. And man, I know I had less than a year, maybe 9 months of clean time. And this guy was sponsoring me, and he was taking me through the steps and stuff, right? And so one of the things he told me to do, he suggested that I go back to school. He said, man, I think you'd be a good psych tech. Once you enroll and go to school and become a psych tech. Mm-hmm. And so I did. And that program was like a year and a half, and it was in Cypress. That's in Orange County. Orange County, yeah. So that just changed my whole perspective. It just changed the whole trajectory of my life because I had never been. Only time we would go past the 605 was maybe to go to Knoxbury Farm or Disneyland. Yeah. So actually, when I went over to Cypress and got into the program, it's like when I got clean, man, it's like doors just started opening for me. The blessing, and what I realized. God had always wanted to bless me, man, but I was blocking my blessings. Mm-hmm. He was busy just trying to keep me alive. Right. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. He was busy just trying to keep me alive. So once I was able to walk in those blessings, I just saw doors opening up for me, man. It was like that psych tech program was like 40 people trying to enroll in it, and they were only taking like 25, right? And some people had applied 2-3 times, and they had a list people that they were accepting. And I was like the 3rd person on the list. And when I first went in there, I said, hey, dang, I'm not going to get in this program. I'm the only black guy here. Mm-hmm. It was a couple of black females, but I was the only black dude. Bunch of white guys and white women. I said, man, I know, they ain't gonna let me in this program. And Cecil Bradley, I was like the 3rd one they called out, And I was like, wow, And my sponsor had influence. So because this guy had influence, he told them, hey, let him get in this program. But prior to taking the program, I had to do some prerequisites.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I had to go to a junior college and take certain classes, and I passed them, and it qualified me for the program. And I stepped into the program, man, and graduated, and you know, it's a whole nother story about how, you know, I had to walk through fire to get the, you know, I had to walk through fire to get my life. Well, I had to deal with the wreckage of my past,
Right.
which wasn't fun or easy. It was painful.
Right.
It was one of those moments where either you're gonna run or you're gonna deal with this. And I walked through it, and in the long run, I got everything I needed, you know, in order to start working for the state. But when I was in the psych tech program, you know, that's where I met my first wife. And the reason why we were able to get in that relationship, because we were only two in the whole program that was kind of like in recovery. And she was going to another fellowship, you know, and then the one I was going to. And what happened was we started hanging out, you know, and then we started kicking it. And it was trip, man. It was like night and day, because she grew up in Newport and I was from Compton, you know. And so I remember her, she was still living at home with her parents, you know. She was like, well, I'll get a place and, you know, you can stay with me if you want. And then when you start working for the state, you know, if you decide you don't want to be together no more, you know, she just gave me an offer I couldn't refuse.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it was like, you know, I picked out the apartment and everything. It was right there in Anaheim, you know, and she got the apartment and we was living together. And so I remember eventually I got on with the state, and I was like, you know what, you know, again, you know, the Holy Spirit spoke to me and said, hey, now what you gonna do? You know you really don't love this girl. You know, what you gonna do? You know, you making money now. You can go ahead and get your own place. But I got comfortable. I said, nah, this is good. You know, this is cool.
Yeah.
I'm gonna ride this out. And then a month later, she got pregnant. A month later, she was pregnant. Now what you gonna do? You know, so you know, I was gradually changing. You know, and so I'm like, you know what? She was cool people. You know, I really didn't really love her, but she was cool people. And the biggest factor was she was kind of raised Catholic. She wasn't gonna have no abortion. You know, that wasn't an option.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm like, okay, what you gonna do? You know, if you're gonna be a dad to this kid, you're gonna have to marry this girl so you can be a full-time dad. You know, you're gonna have to go ahead and marry her. And again, something in me said it's okay, go ahead and marry her. Because, you know what, man, the only thing we really had in common was sex. You know what I'm saying? We really wasn't meant to be together. You know, God would bring people in your life for a season.
Yeah.
And sometimes we don't know when we should let go, you know?
Yeah.
You know,
I do know. Yeah,
right. Because he did bring her in my life when I needed somebody to put me up for a minute, right?
Yeah.
And he told me it's time to move on, and I said, no, I want to stay.
Yeah, God told me it's time to move on, and 3 years later, I'm still with that.
Yeah, right.
Wondering what happened.
Why isn't this working? Because it's not supposed to work.
No, it ain't supposed to work. They only supposed to be there for a season, and we want to make it a lifetime.
That's funny, bro.
Yeah. So me and her, man, we started. You know, we didn't stop having sex, so we kept making babies, but we was bumping heads.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So the thing was, man, 4 years later, I mean, well, not, you know, 4 kids later, in 17 years of marriage, we finally decided we can't do this no more.
Yeah.
You know, we just driving each other crazy, you know. And when you're not happy, man, you know, I had other character defects. So when you're not happy, you know, thank God I didn't chose to go get loaded, but I was using other character defects to fix on.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? And so, you know, she put up with it as long as she could, and finally we divorced, man. But I was always there for my kids, man. I was a good dad. I was very present and through that whole process. So even after we divorced, I think my oldest son was 17. My youngest, I had 3 sons and a girl, and so, you know, I raised my boys up playing sports and stuff, man, and it was a blessing. They were always like the best kid on the team, you know what I'm saying? And I had one boy, you know, Matt, he's my mini-me. We got the same birthday and everything. You know, we got the same birthday, man.
Yeah.
This guy was a beast. You know, he was kind of, you know, he was just killing football, basketball, to where, you know, to the point to where I never had to pay for him to play, and, you know, one of those type deals.
Yeah.
You know, everybody that saw this kid playing at the highest level.
Yeah.
And so anyway, he stayed with me the whole time. So when we divorced, she took 2. She took the daughter and the youngest. I took my oldest boy and Matt, which was like he's the middle kid. And so, but we all kind of, at one point, man, God was blessing us during that whole marriage. Even though I was a shitty husband, he was blessing us as a family. At one point, man, me and her had 4 properties. We had our primary and 3 rentals. So eventually, we had bought a house, a 6-bedroom house up in Beaumont, and we was living on psych tech salaries. Back then, I know it was a God thing, man, because between the 2 of us, we might have been making at the most $80,000 a year with 4 kids, and we buying properties and stuff, and so I knew, I'm like, man, God is doing stuff for us, but we were just working against each other.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So when we divorced, her thing was, well, let me have a house in Beaumont and you can have the rentals. Because that's when the market was kind of funky. And she was like, well, there was really no equity in those other houses, but I had tenants in them. So I really wasn't sweating. I said, as long as I got tenants paying the mortgage, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good. So it's like, okay, go ahead and take the house in Beaumont. And, I found something to rent for a while till one of my tenants moved out and I moved in one of my properties, And we were good, man. We were good. We just kept it going, And eventually my one son got a full ride to UC Irvine, and on a scholarship. And Matt was just doing his thing, man. I just, was watching him, in the gyms with him, AAU and football and, man.
Is he the one that plays college?
He graduated. He graduated.
Oh, okay.
You know what? Until he's a lefty too, but he's a lot like me, he's stubborn. And so growing up, man, I'm like, Matt, he was so good in football. He was just a beast out there. But he liked basketball because I think it was more of a challenge. But anyway, make a long story short, man, he just graduated and everybody was telling him he could play at the next level, but his fear was greater than his talent. So he started like, well, Dad, I don't want to play. I never said I wanted to play in the NBA and that. So he's not playing in the NBA. He went overseas. And he went overseas to Germany and played for a year and came back. But, Dad, I don't really want to go overseas no more because, the family's not there. So this is where recovery comes in for me. So he did his thing and he came back home and somebody gave him a job and he didn't like the job. So now he's like, kind of doing whatever. And he come back, Dad, I want to come back home for a while. I said, hey, man, I done supported you, this basketball thing since you was probably 6 years old. I said, now, either you going to, we talked about what you wanted to do. Your game plan was you was going to give up the basketball and, you got a degree, so go ahead and get you a career. And he decided, no, I don't want to work. I'm going to go back and play basketball. Well, hey, man, I can't support you no more. Not from my house. I love you. I love you to death, but I'm not going to make it comfortable for you. You know what I'm saying? As a dad, I love you enough to make it uncomfortable. So if that's what you're going to do, you're going to pursue it on your own because you're not going to live in my house, sleep all day, and go play ball. You know what I'm saying? We ain't going to do that no more because you had the best opportunity to make that happen, and you walked away from it. So I already know that, you need to make some better decisions. And so I'm trying to help you make those better decisions. And so it was just here recently, man. I told him, nah, we're not going down that route anymore. So, yeah. And I thank God because I have recovery, man. And I thank God that, you know what? I was clean before I had any kids. So now I don't do anything out of guilt because I feel like I owe them something.
Yeah, I still do.
Yeah.
I do too.
Yeah.
And I feel guilty, because other parties loaded. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of guilt there. Like, man,
Right.
oh, man. Like, it's almost like I sometimes feel sorry for them. Like, oh, they're being raised without a mom, this and that. And so, like, there's some guilt there. Something
Right.
that I'm working on. Yeah.
No, I know I gave him 100%. I gave him the best I had. You know what I'm saying? I gave him everything I had as a dad. And so at some point, man, you gotta cut your losses or whatever. He ain't a loss, but just gotta say, hey, you gotta figure this thing out on your own because I gave you the best I had to offer, and you had many opportunities to go to that next level and you didn't want to because it's fear, the pressure. It's a lot of pressure, man. When people talking about paying you millions of dollars and a lot of people in your ear, and so now he couldn't drown out all that noise, and then he stopped listening to me at some point. Well, Dad, you don't know, you ain't never played at this level. All right, but I got common sense.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, I've done things, I've accomplished things for a guy to where I come from.
Yeah.
It's like, man, you forget where I came from, but I didn't forget, so sometimes I had to drop the Compton on him, it's like, dude, you tripping.
Yeah.
Drop the comment.
Yeah, sometimes I got to go Compton on him.
Yeah.
This was one of these times, so he's a little hurt, But I share this story, man. One of the greatest gifts in recovery for me was, my grandmother. Yeah, I'm gonna, we'll, I don't know if we need to end, but I'm gonna share this with you guys.
Yeah.
I told you how I stole money from my grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
When I got clean and I started working my steps, and I don't even think I was at the 4th step yet, but I had enough fortitude to know I got to make things right with my grandmother.
Well, you can. Huh?
Yeah, I got to make things right with her, right? So I wrote her a letter and told her, hey, I'm in recovery now. I don't even know if you, I know I stole your money. And I don't know if you can ever understand why I did it. I was trying to tell her about, I was sick and this, that, and the other. I said, but here's your money, and I hope you can forgive me. I hope you can forgive me. And I put her money in the envelope and sent it to her. And she wrote me back, man, and she just said 4 words, the hatchet is buried. I cried like a baby. I cried like, man, that changed my whole recovery. You know what I'm saying? And that's when I knew recovery worked, because she was able to forgive me. And all she said was, the hatchet is buried. Man, I cried like a newborn, like somebody to spank my ass. You know what I'm saying? And so from that day on, our relationship just went right back to how it used to be when I was a little kid. You know what I'm saying? So I would go visit her every summer with my kids, and just spend time with her,
Yeah.
And so check this out. So she got up in her 90s, right? I think she was like 98, still living by herself. So I think a family member went by to visit her and she couldn't get out of bed, so they had to put her in the hospital and da-da-da-da-da. And so her mind was still sharp. So I said, man, I got to go out there and see my grandmother. She's in a rehab. I don't know what condition she was in. So I walk in her room. She see me at the door. Hey, man, what you doing here? So I had told my aunt. So they was trying to figure out what they wanted to do with her, because she couldn't live by herself anymore, okay? But she was like a strong-willed woman, and she didn't want to live with her daughter. She couldn't, and they tell you can't go back home. So I said, what? I'm going to go out there and ask my grandmother. She's willing to come live with me. And this when we had the 6-bedroom house in Beaumont. I said, we got a room for her and everything. So I go to this, convalescent place, a rehab center. Say, hey, dear. I said, hey, I just bought a house out in Beaumont and da-da-da-da, and, and I would love for you to come live with me, I said, you think you can come stay with me? She said, sure. I'm like, okay. So I told her daughter, which was her conservator at the time, her executor or whatever, I said, hey, dear, say she'll come live with me. No way, because she wouldn't even live with her own daughter. She didn't want to stay with her own daughter. So I said, yeah, she said she'll come live with me. Okay, because she couldn't live by herself anymore. So I actually flew back home, and here's the deal, because I was still with my first wife, right? And I had prayed, and I said, God, man, I sure wish my grandmother could live with me. But I didn't want to put it on my wife. I didn't want to ask her, because I didn't want it to feel like it was going to be a burden to her. But I prayed about it, and she came to me and said, hey, wouldn't it be nice if Dear could come stay with us? We got this house, and because she knew how I felt about my grandmother. She knew how much I love my grandmother. So she made it feel like God made her think it was her idea. You know what I'm saying? So she came to me with it, and I was like, yeah, let's do that. Yeah. So I flew to Texas, visit her, came back and said, hey, this is what we're going to do. We're going to make this room her room. Then I'm pretty sure I flew back and got a U-Haul down there, right? Yeah. Got a U-Haul, put all her stuff in that U-Haul from her bedroom, because she didn't need all her stuff. I just wanted her bedroom to look like the room I was fixing up for her. Yeah. I got a bed, da-da-da-da, whatever, dresser and stuff. Brought it back, fixed the room up, then flew back and brought her back. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And so then she's like, wow, I wanted to feel as home as much as possible, right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I had her own room, and at this point she couldn't even walk anymore. She was like in a wheelchair, and so I had to help her in and out of bed, and she was like, man, Cecil, I hate you got to do this for me. I said, listen, remember how you took care of me when I was a little boy? How you bathed me, and So all I'm doing is giving back to you what you did for me. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, and the blessing was, man, she wasn't a burden that one day. It's like that time she was with us, my whole house was blessed. Me and my ex was getting along great. You know what I'm saying? It's like she just blessed the whole house. She knew, her mind was still sharp. Knew all my kids by, she's 99 years old. Knew all my kids by their names, joking kid with them, And so she was with me for a couple of months. And one day, I'm at home. I don't know why I was at work. Wasn't at work that day. So we had her in hospice because she was declining. But she was still doing fine. Her mind and stuff was still good. And so one day she called me in the room. It was like in the morning. And so my son was like, it was like noontime. My oldest boy said, hey, Dear's calling you. So I go in the room. I say, hey, Dear, what's going on? Oh, man, I want you to help me lift me up in the bed a little bit. So before I went over to the bed, she just started thanking me and stuff. Say, hey, I really want to thank you for everything, everything you've done for me and da-da-da-da. And I was like, Dear, you don't have to thank me. It's like, hey, you my grandmother. I love you. You ain't been a burden not one day, not one day. So we sitting there just talking about 5 minutes, man. And so I said, hey, Dear, are you ready for me to move you? She took a deep breath, closed her eyes, and went to heaven. Right in front of me. She wasn't suffering. She wasn't shaking. She just, and I was like, wow. I said, are you leaving me? I said, Dear, are you leaving me? And I sat there and watched her for maybe a minute or two, and I heard the spirit just leave her body, like wind just left her body. Damn. And I mean, listen, man, like I said, I didn't have some God moments, right? That room was so strong with the Holy Spirit, I couldn't even cry. I just sat there in awe, just in awe. It's like, wow. I was like, wow. And I sat there and I rubbed her back and I was like, wow, she's gone. And then when I walked out the door to tell my kids that their great-grandmother was dead, had passed, it hit me. It's like when I went out the room, I was back on earth. Almost like I was in another dimension. I ain't gonna say heaven, but it's like when I was in that room, when that happened, it was like I was in a different dimension. And I was just sitting there in awe. Like I just saw God just do some stuff, man, that I couldn't believe, And so she actually called me in that room to tell me bye. Yeah. I have no doubt. She called me in the room to say goodbye. Yeah. And so, so we, and everything just went smooth. It was April 1st, because we was going to have she was going to turn 100 on April 9th. Oh, and wow. So we was having a big party for her on April 9th. So everybody still came out on April 9th for a memorial. Yeah. We still planned a party, but it was a memorial service. So everything went smooth, man, and, and flew her body back to Texas, and, and everybody thought I was the big hero. Oh, you so wonderful. Like, man, I ain't do nothing. You know what? She blessed me. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So one of the things in recovery, man, that I learned is that when you get out of the way, and because when we use it, man, we're the most selfish people in the world. You know what I'm saying? We're so selfish. And now in recovery, I learned how to, be loving, caring, giving. And when I gave to her, man, it was like, it just changed everything, it changed everything, and it wasn't nothing hard about it. It was like it was like the right thing. It's almost like that what God created me for that moment. You know what I'm saying? It was for that moment to take care of her. And since then, man, so many things in my life have been so good. I got a 94-year-old neighbor, man, that lives a few doors down from me. We have dinner with her. That's why I say I got to get out of here, because we have dinner with her every Sunday. Awesome. And we've been doing that there for about 5 years, right? Yeah. So initially her family was like, what is he up to? Why is he doing this for my mom? And so we invited her kids, because her daughter is like almost 80 years old, So one couple of Thanksgivings ago, I had them come out and say, hey, you guys come over for Thanksgiving because we're going to have your mom over. And they got to meet us and really saw what me and my wife was about. It was like, okay. Yeah. So now we like family to them, And, and I'm like, hey, you know what? I said, she reminds me of my grandma, and that's what I did for my grandmother. I loved her, my grandmother, and she needs someone to look out for. And now when I go down there, she's like so grateful. She said, you know what? If it wasn't for you, I'd probably be in a nursing home right now, And there's more things too that came out of that. By us going down there, I met somebody to come by and take care, look out for her 5 days out of the week. And we're there every Sunday to make sure she's okay and make sure she gets a good meal and check up on her, and and so she just, she's blessed by it. We're blessed by it,
Yep.
And that's how recovery's been for me, man.
Oh yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
So there's one thing that we're gonna wrap it up right now, but
Okay.
one thing I wanted to ask you and mention on here because it I think it brings a lot of hope to somebody who's an addict. Man, you were on crack for
About 9 years.
9 years, right? You went back to school. You started working for the state as a psych tech, and I know this about you. You retired.
Yeah.
From after
28 years.
28 years working for the state, and that's just crazy, man. I wanted to mention that because you didn't mention it. But there's one question we ask at the end. Usually, is if there's a message you could give to somebody who's struggling, who's still using, maybe who's just starting out in recovery, what would that be?
Oh man, what would that be, man? It's a lot of little things that add up to big things. You know what I'm saying? But one thing I would say, the message of hope, is that, you know what, the greatest love that's out there, man, is God's love. First of all, God is real, okay, and hopefully in the process of you allowing God to love you, you learn to love yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, because until I can love myself, because when I first came around these rooms, I didn't even like me. So they taught me. They say, hey, we'll love you till you're able to love yourself, and they did. So I stayed around long enough to learn to like myself. And eventually I started loving myself. And I truly believe, man, once you love yourself, you ain't gonna do self-destructive things to yourself like drugs. It's like my life, and I'm gonna share this, man, because I stayed out of the rooms of recovery for many years because I have no desire to use. You know what? To me, drugs is just like if you ever been in a real bad relationship, okay, and you like, ain't nowhere in the world I go back to that chick. Because she dogged me, she broke me, she kicked my ass. There's nowhere in the world I want to go back to that relationship. And that's how drugs is for me. It's like, I hear people that's been clean for a while and they still like, I still think about, man, that love affair is over for me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I'm a spiritual person. And God, the Spirit spoke to me one time and said, now that you know the truth, you no longer have to live a lie. And you know what that lie is? That drugs and alcohol is cool, that it's fun, that it's okay. And that's the biggest lie you can buy. You know what I'm saying? Because ain't nothing cool about it, ain't nothing fun about it. Because all it's going to do is break you and kick your ass, and you ain't going to have nothing. Yep. So somebody that's struggling, it's like, give yourself a break, man, because, I don't know, man, if you can learn to like yourself till you grow to love yourself, you'll get over this thing, and you can have a life. I walked through a lot of stuff, you know what I'm saying? I was a zero, and people look at me now like a hero, you know what I'm saying? Because I was a zero for a long time. I came in these rooms, I wasn't looking for no job, I was looking for hope, and I found some hope. My credit was to the curve, my credit's over 800 now, because I just did some things that were suggested, and I put them into practice. So one of the things I said, give yourself a break, one day at a time. And, don't use no matter what, because you don't have to.
Oh, yeah.
You don't have to.
Yeah. All right, Cecil, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for coming on. Yep. All right, make sure you guys like, share, subscribe, follow us on Instagram at The Message is Hope podcast. And, we'll see you guys next week.
All right, man. God bless.
Can you spare some hope right now? Lately I've been thinking about this life and how it brought me here. Staring at this man in the mirror, I see him often here. Wipe my tears, only if you knew what I was going through. Only if you walked it in my shoes.
Looking at the skylight, thinking of my life like looking for the right state of mind to get my time right. I just hope my time's right. Lost up in the limelight, but you'll never know unless you walked up in my shoes.
As someone who struggled with addiction in the past, how does it feel to be able to give hope to others who are still struggling now?
It's such an honor to be able to hear other people's experiences of life, to see how when faced with the very thing that was sent to destroy you, kill you, and take you out forever didn't, but rather you have been given a second chance to give hope and be a light for those who are still in the dark. So So don't be afraid to share your message to the world. You never know whose life you might be saving.